Hey, loves, what's up? We're going to get started on time, or semi on time today, because we're going to do this one as a quick kind of tip, and I'll explain to you what's going on with those. So basically, I'm doing tips for tips over here, and this has come about because I've gotten a lot of questions about some things that might be able to be resolved by a simple video showing you all how to do things. So if you ask me how to do what you think might be a simple task, and you can message me and let me know what it is that you want to do, and I can give you a quote for what I would charge to pretty much do it live to demonstrate how I do it, and then in the process you end up getting a file that has the edits that you needed. So I just want to say hey to Erica, Nakia, Latrice. What's up, love? Latrice, this is yours, baby. So we're going to go ahead and get started. This is going to be two parts. One part is going to be doing the color change and the character face exchange. And then we're going to end that live. And then I'll start a new live on just randomly doing this all over design that I just decided to do for this particular project. So, hey, Freddie, I'm glad you can join us. Yes. All right. So let's get started. Can you all hear me all right? And you have to bear with me. I'm on my new computer, so I might not have all my settings the same. So we're gonna make sure we can rock this one out, and let me know if there's anything I can do to make it better for you. Sounds good. You all can see. Now, you know what? I think I need to make this bigger, huh? Can you all see my whole screen? I told you I'm on a new computer now. Is that better? Hopefully you should be able to see the whole thing now. Let me check back in. Okay, so it looks like you can see my whole screen now, full size. Awesome. All right, so we have been tasked with a special mission for an 8-year-old or up and coming 8-year-old. So we have to make sure that this is super special. There has been artwork done for sort of like a in the style of type of artwork. I did not do this artwork. However, if you do need this type of artwork done, it can be done. It's just I'll have to give you a specific quote based on what you want to do. But this artwork, I will say is beautiful artwork, not mine. But we're going to show you how to two things. We're going to color change, of course, and then as a bonus, we're going to take this face and switch it up and basically use the body of, I believe this is Goku. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and create a color swatch based on the skin tone of Christian here, who is our subject for the day, our lovely subject for the day. Let's go ahead and grab this color. I'm going to use my paint bucket tool very soon. So I'm selecting my paint bucket tool. I'm going to hold down the Alt key in order to grab that color. And this image happens to be a solid color. There's no shading or anything here, which is awesome to keep it flat. But you also see in the artwork there is shading. So we'll see, either we're going to not do shading or we're going to add some shading to the face. So right now I can copy that hex code if I want to, but just to save this, I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer and just make a random marquee square and fill it with that brown color. That way when I'm working, I have like almost a color palette to work from. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is Control D to deselect. And I'm going to look at this image. What I would honestly do is bring this into Illustrator, and I would definitely vector this because it's very simple. It only has about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 colors. About 13 colors, not including the brown in the tail. So maybe 16 colors total. So this wouldn't be bad to vector, but I don't want to show you how to do that in Illustrator because that's not what we're agreeing to. We're talking Photoshop right now. So I'm going to show you how I would do this in Photoshop. With your magic wand selection, you can choose the contiguous option. Contiguous is going to select all colors that are touching that are close enough in range of this tolerance right here. So if I choose contiguous, it's only going to choose this color in particular that it's touching. But if I deselect contiguous, I select that same color, it's going to select everywhere it sees that color. And like I said, this is a basic broken down vector-ish looking design. So I already knew that if I selected that color, it was pretty much going to select all instances of that color. So instead of painting on my original image, I am going to do a new layer, and this is my shadow. So when I'm going to grab my fill bucket. Now that I'm on a new layer, even if I only fill this one section, it is going to fill the entire area where I have a selection active. So I'm going to hold down Alt so I can pick that brown color. And instead of painting it that exact brown, these are my shadows. So I'm going to double click, and I'm going to choose a little bit darker color. And that was just arbitrarily chosen. I did not, plan on that. So I filled in that layer. I'm going to Control D to deselect so you can see what just happened. It just colored in all the shadow areas. And now my main color, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab my magic wand tool, select his main skin color, and then, oh, you know what? I had to be careful. Well, it's fine because I'll go back and take off the brown off of his pants there. Or it may stay that way because it just may very well work out that well. Okay, so the face color, we're going to do a brand new layer. We're not going to color on just one single layer. Every color that we do, we're going to do a different layer. That way we can adjust those colors later one at a time. So let's grab our paint bucket, and this time Alt, I'm going to select the color that we had. And if you didn't create that swatch there, that's fine. I could bring my picture back and I can Alt pick the color directly from the image there if I didn't remember that step. So I'm going to go ahead and paint there, and you'll see that is the same color. We'll do Control D so we can see. I'm going to drag it below. And now our characters are the same color. Look at that. Already we're winning. Okay. Now we may or may not use these highlights, like the highlight on his face. So I'm going to go ahead and do them anyhow. I'm going to select the white, but guess what? It's selecting the white of his eyes. It's selecting the lightest color in his belt. I can reduce the tolerance here to maybe 15 instead. And let's do Control D. Well, my goodness. Do you not want to deselect? Select, deselect there. And at least it didn't select his belt down there. And then what I would do, because I'm getting really close to not selecting enough pixels, I could grow these pixels a little bit so that I end up with a little bit of overlap. Because these aren't vector images, so there are going to be very slight areas where it looks like colors are touching, but it's really blank right there. So what I'm going to do, instead of taking my chances there, I'm going to hold down, I'm going to grab this polygon lasso, hold down my Alt key. That way I'm deselecting or subtracting from this area. And then that way I just took away the whites of the eyes because I knew that I'm not going to change that with the skin tone no matter what. So we'll create a new layer. And this time when I use the paint bucket to paint this layer, I'm going to just grab that white because it was highlighted. So I'm painting that white. You won't really be able to tell that it's there until we start bringing in some of our other elements. But it's there. So let's select, deselect, and already I just showed you how to make our Goku a melanated version. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to make his outline a little bit darker, a little bit more of a true black, because the image when I brought it in made it a little gray black, and we can adjust that. We can do an adjustment of the entire image, or we can do, let's do a layer adjustment. Layer adjustments are non-destructive, and that's why I like them. So let's do new adjustment layer. Let's do some levels, say okay. And let's see, I need to bring the black up a little bit. See how I was making that black like much darker? And what I'm trying to look at is the image in the background to make sure that they kind of have similar blacks, because you're taking one artist's image and you're merging it with another artist's image. So what you want to do is have the most consistent details as possible. And you'll see also that the outlines are a little bit thicker on one image versus the other. So we're going to, probably have to change a little bit of that. But as far as the color goes, we did our color part. Now we're going to go ahead and take out the image of the face that we want to keep. And I'm checking on the chat periodically to see if you all have questions. All right. So let's go on into the next phase. So I'm going to hide our Goku. As a matter of fact, let me turn back on. And I'm going to shift, select all those layers, Control G to group them, and turn it off as a group. So now, have my beautiful image here. I'm just going to use my polygon lasso because I know that I only need the face. I can hold down my space bar in order to pan around the image. And I'm just going to Control C, Control V. And here, what I'm doing is, and I can get rid of my color swatch now. I don't need that layer anymore. I'm going to make sure that I use, you can use the magic wand here, or you can use the quick selection tool. I'll show you quick selection tool. It tries to guess based on what you're touching, what you want to keep and what you want to take away. And in this case, it does a really good job because it's a very easy image to distinguish. But I do see some areas that are not quite doing what I want here. And right now I have the addition. You see that plus sign on the circle? I can also turn it into the subtraction mode. Or I can say, hey, I really wanted to keep that part of the hair. And so forth. You can add and subtract. I'm going to reduce the size of my selection here, and then I want to add to this. You see that purple that's in there? And let's say I wanted to get that very much, and now it selected some of that black. Now I'd go on my subtract and take it back out. Now that did not make me happy how it still won't get inside of there. So I'm going to get my magic wand. This is on basically a new selection. I'm going to put it on the addition selection. So whatever I have selected, it's just going to add to it. And you see that we're getting some kind of jagged edges there. A little J.E. heartbreak. It's okay. We're going to fix that. And then I want to make sure that I'm on the layer of my little cutout. I don't want to be on my original layer. In this case, it's a smart object, so it wouldn't let me edit it anyway, but I just don't want you to get used to that. All right. So I'm also going to select out here in this random area because I hate to see little pieces of an edge there that you didn't know existed. So I just go ahead and get it all of that background mess. I got it. So what we can do at this point, I don't want to just hit delete right now. What I want to do is select and mask, and I want to see if my selection is really clean. And what I'm checking for here is to make sure that these edges aren't so jagged, so maybe I want to smooth them out. In this case, I would not suggest feathering. With photos, sometimes I feather just to give it a natural kind of cutout, especially when it has a background. But when we're dealing with cartoons, you kind of want more of a clean line. And I could shift my edge inwards or outwards depending on if I wanted to cut out more of one thing versus the other. And in this case, I also want to invert. See what's going on here. No feathering. And it's still going to smooth it out a little bit. But like I said, if you really want a clean vector version of this, then you would actually bring it into Illustrator and vector it. But I think this is going to do us some good right here. Do what we need it to do. So I haven't deleted anything. I just refined my edge. I just gave it a little more cleanliness to those or smoothed out the marching ants here because they were very rough. They're based on the pixels in the image. All right, so instead of just deleting, I'm going to create a layer mask. So this rectangle with the circle in it creates that layer mask. That way, if I ever felt like I really needed to go back and refine some of this, I haven't deleted any of these pixels. Matter of fact, I can go back and redraw his hair if I wanted to. All right, so now I'm going to bring back our original image, and this is what I should have done in the first place. Make sure that we had, this is a decent resolution image, so this is good. We're going to keep it that. All right, so next things next, let's drag our face on top and let's see how we're gonna work this. I like to turn my opacity down a little bit so I can make sure my features are about the same. So if you look at the eyes, that might give you a good indication of the scale and the size of the face. Now this particular image has his mouth open versus closed. So the face will be a little bit longer. So I'm going to make sure that we are accounting for that. And I think this is about the scale here. I'm going to go ahead and turn my opacity all the way back up. And in this case, the neck of the character is a lot smaller too. So we're going to remove the neck from our caricature drawing. And to do this, let's go ahead and go in with the pen tool. You know, that tool that I tell you sometimes scares folks. And we're just going to go in, follow his jawline. This is good practice too. We could have also used the magic wand and selected the brown part of the neck and then included these little parts here. But I want to let y'all know that this pen tool is nothing to be afraid of. So I have the outside meat selected. I'm going to go ahead and make that a selection. And I'm not going to tell it to feather any pixels. But now that I'm on one of my selection tools, I can go to select a mask. And in this case, I want to see how it cleaned up. So I want to do the inverse of that. And it looks like I could have cleaned up just a little bit better. And I'm just being a little picky because I see I'm not consistent with how I cleaned up this line, which would make it look weird. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. And I must have moved my mask, or either that or I did not pay great attention. And this is the good thing about your vector mask. Guess what? I can change it. There is redemption, okay? With your bitmap selection methods, there is not redemption, especially if you already deleted pixels. So just changing here, and I can even add nodes if I need to, because I was trying to be a little bit lazy and use as little nodes as possible. But now that I see it, this drawing does just have a skinnier line here than it does here. So I thought that was me, but that is the way the artist intended for it to be. So I'm going to let it be as it is. Go ahead and select this part. I was going to smooth it out just a little bit. As a matter of fact, I need to be on my selection tool, or my pen tool. Yep. And then go ahead and make that a selection. Tell it 0 on the feathering, and then once I'm on my selection method, I can go to select a mask. I will invert it, smooth it out just a little, say okay. And now if I'm on the mask layer, I can just simply take my paintbrush tool, and let's go ahead and choose a very typical hard brush here. Right click, I'll make sure I have a decent size. And if I paint with black, I should not have inverted that. Select inverse. I want to make sure the area where the neck is selected. So I'm just cleaning that up with the paintbrush on the mask layer, so those pixels are very much still there. Select and deselect. Now I have another issue going on right now. Of course, Goku's hair is the triangular kind of style, and we want to make sure we keep the hair of our subject here. So instead of actually deleting anything for Goku, what I'm going to do is add a layer mask to the Goku layer, and I'm going to make sure I bring the highlight layer above our other face, because I'm going to see if we're going to end up keeping that highlight. I don't know yet. We'll see. Because it doesn't have the shadows, so I would also have to build the shadows. So let's do a little erasing of our Goku character here. But we're not going to actually erase. All we're going to do is modify this mask. So white reveals and black conceals. So we're going to make sure that we select our default swatches here. We have black selected in the foreground. That's perfect to conceal. And then we're going to make sure that we're on the layer mask for the entire Goku. And I'm just going to clean that up. Now, of course, the face is dangerously close to these fingers here. And, of course, the fingers have outline, and they're not going to be included in the hair. So what we may do at this point, we got the bulk of it out of the way. And if I really wanted to be careful around these fingers, I would do the same thing with the pen tool. Go ahead and grab somewhere outside. And I'm pulling and dragging, clicking and dragging, or clicking and pulling. And creating this vector shape right now. And then I can go ahead and select everything right up into this neck area. So with the neck area, I'm going to get rid of the outline here, because we're going to do our best to make sure that overlap occurs with the new head. And we close that path up. So now what I'm going to do is change that into a selection. And on my mask layer, clean that up with the black because it is going to conceal. Now I can Control D to deselect. Let's bring our face back. And already we have our compilation already looking like it's doing something. Now what I might do is disproportionately, you see, when I have shift selected, I can disproportionately squish this in a little bit so that his face is a little wider, but it can match up with the neck there. That looks good to me. Now you have an option, okay? Your best option is, if you're not sure what to do with all of these highlights, you can leave it just like this. The typical person isn't going to look at it like, oh my gosh, there are no highlights and shadows in the face, but there are highlights and shadows on the body. The typical person isn't going to realize that. The other thing you can do is, let's say that this is our main color, right? We can go ahead and do a color overlay. And I'm going to show you in just a moment how you're going to be able to see that not all of these colors are going to look consistent. It looks consistent, but when you zoom in, you might see a little bit of difference between these layers because they're not vectored. Alright, so all I did was select the previous color brown, and it's a color overlay, so guess what? I can turn it on and off. So that's one solution. That would be my solution if you don't really know how to do shadows and you don't want to fool with it, especially if you're doing a lot of these. However, if you did want to incorporate some shadows, you do have that option. And then this one, we could copy that layer style from here where we just turned it all brown and paste the layer style here. So now even those shadows, even the highlights, so highlight, shadows, and the midtones are all the same color. It makes it look smooth and neat. So that would be the basics of doing this. If I wanted to bring those highlights back, let's say I want to do a color overlay, but instead of the regular brown, I want to make it like a little bit lighter brown. So I don't want his highlights to be white. I want them just to be a little bit lighter version of the brown. And in this case, of course, I have this highlight here on his cheek. That was a part of the previous Goku image, but I'm going to Control X to cut that and Control V to copy that. And that's just me just cheating and using the existing highlight. And then I can copy that layer style from the previous highlight, paste it on the new highlight. And now we have highlights on there. Now the shadows, we did turn the shadows into the regular color. So if we want to bring the shadows back, we can do that. And then what you're looking for is kind of an idea of where is the highlight coming from and where is the shadow dropping. So let's just say, for instance, we're looking at this arm on the left here. We have the highlight from the top and we have the shadow coming to the bottom. So I might go in with my shape tool here. And I might say, well, let's add a little shadow to his face. And in this case, it would be vector, so we can always go back and change it. And as a matter of fact, let me show you how you should reference this first. Let's go ahead and let's right click and disable that layer mask so we can see the face here. And see how it kind of comes from the chin, takes up the entire side of the face, and then takes up the entire side of the forehead based on his hair as well. So we can do the same concept. As a matter of fact, we can use this layer to get an idea of how this would go. So I'm going to start from the bottom of the chin, come into the eye area, and of course this is definitely going to be based on the existing face, but I'm just getting a very rough, and then we'll even go into the ear, but not completely into the ear. So that's our little shadow. Close it up. And again, we're going to reactivate. We're going to enable our layer mask, and let's go ahead and create a shape here. So this shape we're going to bring above the area that we had marked off. And let's copy the layer style from the shadows. I think this is the shadows. Trying to grab that, let's grab that color overlay. Turn the opacity down, grab the old brown. See, it's about, made it a little more gray. There we go. So let's say that's going to be our shadow now. We can copy that layer style and paste it onto our shape. Uh-oh, what happened here? Color overlay, let's check and see. Normal, oh, I forgot to turn my opacity up. Duh. Let's do the same thing here. Color overlay and turn the opacity back up. And we can change the colors later too, but I just want to make sure they're consistent. Alright, so let's turn our face back on, bring the shadow layer up, and I'm going to put it onto multiply. Tell my effects to blend. There we go. And really that's what your shadow should be doing anyway. They should be blending over your colors, but we won't be able to match that. So we're just basically putting them together like a puzzle instead of layering them. All right, so we're going to take our direct selection tool here, select this path, and now we can clean this up so that the shadow fits our new character face. And you have nodes that you can move, and then you have these handles you can move. So the handles are the ones that can be a little tricky because you have to know how one handle affects the next, whether it's shorter, longer. And I'm going to take this one, move it below the eye, move that handle shorter. And this is why I was saying if you're really beginner at this and you don't want to do all this, that's completely understandable. I'm just showing you how to take it a little bit, how to take it that next step, give it that little shadow, and that way it looks a little more dynamic. Right click, and we will, we need to create a clipping mask because this shadow layer should clip to the face. Now, granted, the shadow layer is also covering up all of the black here. We can select our previous image and grab our magic wand. Make sure contiguous is not selected, and we're going to select the black because we want this part to be over our shadow. So we'll go to our shadow and we will select inverse of that and create a layer mask. And this way, once we turn this back to normal, we should have the black show through. So we have a little shadow, have a little highlight, we have our color matching. I'm going to check in with y'all to see if you have any other questions because I think that is about it. So that is part one. We did this color change. We did a character face change. And like I said, you could take these components off as far as the shadows and the highlights. Build on them, change them up, whatever you like to do. I think this looks great. You all let me know what you think. Should I change anything? Is anything, especially Latrice, how does this look for you? Now let me go back to the live chat so I can see what you're saying. All right, awesome. I gotta love it. I love when I get love it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and end this session because I've learned that when my sessions are too long, it's hard for me to break the videos down later. So I'm going to end this session. This will be the color change session. You all join me back in like 3 minutes. I'm going to set up a new video where we're basically going to design an all over shirt inspired by this theme. So yeah, give me about 3 minutes and join me live once again on a new video. All right, guys, I'll see you in a little bit. Love ya. Bye.